Chapter 3 of the Uprising shoot interview. We're going to cover the BMF days. We talked in the last chapter about the end of 2007, around Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving show. And then now we're starting at the beginning of 2008 with new ownership, Brian Roberts and Martin Fernandez. What had happened was Sean and Guy were just kind of getting burned out or whatever. I remember them saying something about they exhausted all their favors or whatever. So they probably just didn't want to shell out as much money, even though, they looked like they were making, good money, probably the best money, even to this day, had made, and like I said, you got to give it to them, much as we may not like their booking style or whatever, I don't think their booking style worked as much as good marketing and all that stuff, because they did have some good marketing.
I thought they were really bad bookers, but very good promoters.
Yeah. So, hats off to them. So here we are at early 2008. Now, by this time, I don't know if I think Guy had taken some time off because he was just married like a year or two before that and just had a new child and all that stuff, which is cool, doing the family stuff and all that stuff. So, I remember Sean. Now it's kind of weird, you think of it, put it in for guys who watch football and just any sports. If you take the head coach and you fire them, you cannot hire them on the same team again because they'll try to undermine the new head coach. You can't fire, what's his name? Bill Belichick. You can't fire him from the New England Patriots and then bring in someone like Tony Dungy or something and have Bill Belichick basically demoted, but have him fired from the head coaching position, because he'll always say, guys will be like, well, I like Bill Belichick's way better, They'll always kind of undermine, or, Bill Belichick will say, oh, Tony, that's not the way I did it. This is the way it needs to be done, It just doesn't work like that. It's just flawed philosophy, and that was kind of maybe where Brian and Martin kind of went iffy, but I don't think it was even their fault. I think it was more Sean and Guy saying, oh no, I'll be obedient, don't worry, whatever you guys want to do, it's your guys' show now, I'll just hands off.
Yeah, even though at before they even ran their first show, I remember Martin telling a story of him going to Sean or Guy's, one of their houses, for a Christmas party or something, and they just started, no, you can't be doing that. What are you doing that for? No, why would you book that? Like constantly writing them about the show they booked. I mean, to me, that's like selling your house and going back 6 months later and going, hey, what'd you paint the walls this color for? Paint it back. Like, you sold the house. Same thing, they sold the company. Why are they commenting that, oh, you did this wrong, you shouldn't have done this? Hey, you know what? If you wanted that power, you shouldn't have sold.
Yeah. And it's not like they were trying to help them out with, hey, this is a better way to market it. They were trying to book the show. The flawed stuff they had done, they were basically trying to pass on to Brian and Martin.
Yeah.
If they would have been there to help, hey, you could market this better, and hey, I appreciate it, I'm sure they would have been cool, and Martin would have had no issue and all that stuff. I feel Martin could have done so much more, as just, his love for the wrestling business wouldn't have died pretty much with all that, because that, I feel, was kind of his, and like he had said, he admitted, just ever since that, he just, wasn't the same, and that, to me, that kind of pisses me off, Sorry for dropping, I did say viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, and not to mention, trust me, I've seen worse on PG programming.
But anyway, so, all right, back to the point Brian and Martin had done that, and then about 2 months into it, Sean's, that whole thing had blown up to the point now everyone was pretty much knowing. Sean had went out like in March, I think, and said that was his last show, and wore some kind of T-shirt that
said something like RIP CWF or NWA Indiana or whatever, had all the veterans' names on the back or something.
It's just freaking silly, but whatever. I mean, he felt that strongly about it, whatever. But that was disrespectful. For someone who was trying to teach, tradition, this, if an old timer would have done that, freaking, they would have been crapped on, they would have been shunned.
They'd have been
by everybody else. Yeah.
In business, yeah.
And, for Sean to do that and all that stuff after he had spent the last 2 years teaching us to respect the veterans, respect the business, respect the tradition, and then he goes out there and goes into business for himself. And I don't think it really had to do, the other guys, his veteran buddies, may have been upset, with the way they were being booked, but Brian and Martin wanted to turn the corner on everything,
Yeah.
It had been the same thing I even went back and I remember looking at the CWF NWA Indiana website, and I looked back at the cards from like 2003. They were the similar cards as we were running in 2005, 2006, 2007. It just, to me, it needed to change. And Brian and Martin were trying to do that with some new young faces. Someone that, didn't want to go out and do the same old thing and, ooh, you grab the hair, you grab the tights, We wanted to do something different. And he was just stalling that. Sean was just like, no, heaven forbid, it's something new,
Yeah, and a lot of people think that, we might be taking it personal that Sean did that. The fact is, I do take it a little bit personal. The reason being is, Martin and Brian, like we've talked about, they gave us the opportunity. I remember Martin coming to me, and he goes, this was right before the first show, a couple weeks, a month, or whatever. No, I think it was right after they bought it. Yeah, I think it was that Thanksgiving show. He was like, hey, how would you and Abel feel about teaming up again and being the Uprising? And I was just like, we loved it. We don't know why they broke us up in the first place. Because what happened is, we did what was supposed to be a storyline with PT Hustler, which really was PT went over. You were supposed to beat him in Frankfurt, but Sean didn't want to do that because heaven forbid we do something new.
And PT actually wanted it. He wanted me to go over, which was awesome,
Yeah,
PT to do.
I'll be honest, I've never been a fan of PT personally, but yeah, the fact that he understood business, that is huge. But we did this thing where he was supposed to face both of us in a singles and then us in a handicap. Now you gotta think, he went over on both of us in the first 2 matches, and when we were gonna do the handicap, which never happened, because apparently we didn't sell enough tickets even though we got put on the pre-show, which still shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But regardless, basically we basically did a squash thing there. We got squashed by one man, and then they just dispersed us. They didn't give a reason. I'd start asking for my matches. I'd be like, is Ross coming out with me? No, he doesn't need to be out there. Okay. That's where we feel like, this is where I'm saying I kind of take it personal, because Mark and Brian were finally giving us the spot. Sean and Guy, and more so I'll admit, I know Guy's shady as Sean is. But I will say, I think it was more Sean, because Guy had nothing to lose by us being top heels. Sean did. Sean was at the time the top heel. So if we came in, we could easily, I'll be honest, I really think we could have easily taken the spot. And Sean didn't want that. So in BMF, here we were, bam, we were feuding with Brian, I believe, right off the bat. We wrestled a tag match in January, and then we went out and confronted Brian about something, about wanting tag titles or something. And Brian laid us both out.
Yeah.
And then we got Valor the next month. I mean, we were on our way. We were, things were starting to form. Things were going good. We were getting that top spot. And then Sean wanted to come in and basically, because he wasn't getting the top spot, he wanted to take the rug out from under us. So in turn, I take it kind of personal, because technically Sean's issue was the fact that he wasn't where we were. And to this day, that still kind of bothers me. It's like, what? You had your time in the sun.
Yeah. It kind of, like I said, led to us being the top heels or whatever, and actually just made it easy with Sean gone. So, I mean, it would have been that hard, charisma-wise and all that stuff. Obviously, I don't have a Sean Cook kind of body and all that stuff, but charisma does go a long way.
Yeah.
So we were put in that top heel spot, and I think our first feud was with Sudden Impact, which Justin Frost and Kenneth James. And I tell you what, that was such a, there's, to this day, there's still, you know, it's still one of my favorite feuds because it was so well done. Brian and Martin, they didn't do like Sean and Guy would. They wouldn't give barking orders. They knew, hey, you guys have a pretty good feel. Just make sure you run it by us so we know what's going on. Because in the end, they were the bosses, you know. But they trusted our judgment so much, and that's what how much we respected, you know, them. And the way they did things is they weren't barking orders and saying, no, that's bad for me. It's good for business, but bad makes me look bad, you know.
Yeah.
They were like, hey man, just let us know. Hey Brian, what do you think about this? Hey Martin, what do you think about this? You know, hey man, sounds good, man, go do it. Or hey, okay, let's tweak this and then go do it.
And I will admit there is a double-edged sword to that because they did that with everybody, which is fine. You know, it's not like we should have got special treatment. No, but at the same time, there were some people that had ideas and went out there and did stuff, and Martin and Brian didn't want to tell them no. But I would like to think Martin and Brian knew that it probably shouldn't happen. But I mean, overall, like I said, when I always told Brian, I remember telling him that I never felt like we worked for them. I felt like we worked with them. Because, like I said, when it came to ideas, you know, we could go to them and say, hey, what do you guys think of this? And I remember, you know, I'd always tell them, if you don't like it, please tell me no. And they never would. I don't know if it's because they just liked the ideas or they just didn't want to tell us no. But regardless, I mean, they would let us run with things. And I mean, I remember in that sudden impact feud, we turned Martin heel. And I came up with the idea of, okay, let's unmask the Olays, which was sudden impact. They lost, lose, or leave street fight to us, so they had to leave, and so they put themselves under masks. And we beat them and unmasked them. And you know, I came up with the idea of Martin being the one to turn on them. And, you know, it was like, it went great, and having Martin on the mic was just fun. That guy has so much charisma. Like, if he ever wanted to come back, I think he missed his calling as a manager. But, I mean, it was just that whole feud was really, really fun, and we put out some really good matches with them.